So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending the first installment of our Women's History Month celebration. Our theme this year is empowerment, and each of our featured speakers is a leader at the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. I can say that working alongside these incredible women is a true honor. Before we turn it over to the first featured speaker for this month, I'd like to invite our Chief of Staff, Rojas, for a few welcoming remarks in place of our Executive Director. Chief of Staff?
Yes, hello, and I hope that everyone can hear me clearly. I'm working from home, hence the background, and also the connection's not as well. But good afternoon to all of you. Thank you so much for being in this space and for giving yourself a little bit of time to unite with other colleagues and honor women in the workforce during Women's History Month. So I'm delighted to be in this space with each of you and looking forward to this presentation. I won't take up any more of Director Meck's time because she has a fascinating presentation to share with all of you. But welcome, and please use the chat if you have any questions, any feedback, and use the raise hand option if you don't feel like typing in the chat. We welcome any of your feedback, remarks, and anything that you'd like to share after the presentation. So thank you, welcome, and we look forward to what you will be presenting, Director Meck.
Thank you, Chief of Staff. I am excited to have our first speaker share her very relevant, especially for me, presentation. But before I do, I have to share her incredible bio. Sheryl Meck serves as the Director of Civil Rights Outreach with the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. She has been with our agency for a little over a year. Prior to this role, Director Meck served a combined 10 years in the adult probation and parole field. She began her career supervising high-risk cases as a state agent for Maryland. She then transferred employment to Lancaster County Adult Probation and Parole, where she supervised and worked closely with domestic violence offenders for over 5 years, before she was then promoted to supervisor of the behavioral health and neurodevelopmental disorders. As the first Filipina American woman in a management position within the history of Lancaster County Adult Probation. Meck graduated from Basic 94th Firearms Training Academy in 2018 and served in a secondary position on the Special Intervention Unit for Lancaster County Adult Probation. She also contributed as a CPR instructor for the agency. Meck is trained in motivational interviewing, trauma-informed care, crisis intervention, as well as some others. She recognizes these trainings in particular as a major asset in her current role, serving the people of the Commonwealth. Meck is a founder and co-chair of Diversity, Respect, Inclusivity, Values, and Equity, also known as the DRIVE Committee of the Lancaster County Court of Common Pleas. This committee was created as a result of heightened racial tensions in the year of 2020. This committee is dedicated to community outreach, internal training, and continued efforts toward fostering a positive relationship between entities of the court system and the people within the community they serve. Meck is a graduate of California University of Pennsylvania, where she earned her Bachelor of Liberal Arts degree in criminal justice with a concentration in forensic science in 2010. Meck has also earned a Master of Science degree in public safety with a concentration in public administration from Capella University in 2012. And she continued on earning 28 credits towards her doctorate of public administration. I am deeply honored to call this powerful woman not only a colleague, but a dear friend. And it is now my honor and pleasure to turn it over to Director Meck to share with us her presentation of Beyond the Scene, Invisible Labor of the Working Mom. Director Meck, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Director Chang. And I just want to say thank you to the group here. It's such an honor to be in this space and to be able to kick off Women's History Month, Women's Empowerment Month with such an important topic to discuss. And so with that, I'll go ahead and share my screen to start the PowerPoint. And y'all let me know. Are we good? Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the title of today's presentation, as Director Chang mentioned, is called Beyond the Scene, the Invisible Labor of the Working Mom. While my title presentation is very specific and a lot of the data that I'll be talking about today it came from working moms in cisgender heterosexual relationships, I did want to share that a lot of this is applicable to so much more. I recognize that there are men that operate in the invisible labor realm. There are different co-parenting dynamics. There's LGBTQ plus families and relationships, and there's also those who serve as caregivers and so on. And so my hope is that throughout this presentation, everyone will be able to come away with a new insight that maybe you didn't have before, or a greater appreciation for what truly goes on behind the scenes in the unseen realm. So let's talk about invisible labor. This type of labor refers to the unseen, unvalued, or undervalued work that is essential in supporting the functioning of workplaces, teams, organizations, families, in the home. The term was actually first coined by social worker Arlene Kaplan Daniels in the 1980s. I think it's important to note that even women who are equally employed as their significant other still end up bearing most of the weight when it comes to the home, the cleaning, the planning, and the organizing. And the outcome of that is an inequity in the home. And we must ask ourselves, why is that? Well, the answer to that is due to gendered assumptions and society and cultural norms in the messaging that women are just naturally better at running the home and caring for the children. So this can start as young as our childhood. Think of the little baby dolls that were given to girls, or the houses that they play with, the doll houses and playing home. And that, I think, is where the gender assumptions begin. So I did also want to point out, though, that the data speaks that in LGBTQ plus relationships, this work is divided more fairly. But in order for us to understand invisible labor as a whole, we need to break it down into two parts and look even deeper. And those two parts are emotional labor and cognitive labor. So emotional labor. This term was originally coined in 1983 by sociologist Arlie Hochschild in her book, The Managed Heart, Commercialization of the Human Feeling. This requires controlling one's emotions to carry out the demands, and it's also referred to as kin keeping. I did want to share here that the original definition of emotional labor was limited to just the workplace. So think of the example of the waitress who has to keep the smile on her face while she's dealing with rude or impatient customers. And that emotional labor, it refers to the mindful control and the effort that it takes to display the appropriate sentiment, even when our personal feelings and emotions contradict with what is expected or required. I know that we have a situation or experience that all of us can say we've been there. It was not until recently, though, and more specifically in the last 10 years, did the definition of emotional labor expand to include the relationships and the families. And so this is where we can see this type of labor manifest in families, especially when there is one person that carries the weight of managing the emotional elements of the children, the extended family members, and the partnerships. So some examples of emotional labor. This could be resolving conflicts between your kids, right? The emotions are running high. You understand why one child is feeling a certain way, and you can understand why the other child is feeling a certain way. But you, as the parent, must put on your conflict resolution skills and get to work. And it's not always easy. Another example would be the bedtime routine and what all is involved with that. The bedtime story, the brushing of the teeth, the one more drink, mom, or the midnight snack, please, or even addressing the fears of the closet monster. I'm sure there's many of us that have had to open the closet, maybe once or twice, check it out, and assure our children that all is well. Another example of emotional labor could be managing your child care responsibilities. But in this aspect, we're thinking about how our child is feeling and how their day is going. So we may ask ourselves, does my child have their favorite blanket for nap time? Will he be grumpy today because he didn't sleep well last night? Maybe I should tell the daycare provider so that she has extra grace for him today. And the list goes on. And then when we talk about kin keeping, this is the management of relationships with family members and then maintaining those social connections. So who is the one that's thinking about the birthdays that are coming up? The going to the store and getting the cards, right? Having your children sign the birthday cards for grandma. Maybe grandma lives 6 hours away and now we need to schedule a FaceTime call and so that grandma can see her grandchildren singing happy birthday to her. So again, this is just one example of so many, and I'm sure many of us can relate to that. The second part of invisible labor is the cognitive labor. This is the anticipating, the monitoring, and the managing of resources, needs, and schedules of the family. It also includes the execution of. And so I put here, think of this as project management of the household. While men are often involved in making important decisions for the household, studies show that women are the ones who initiate the decision-making process. And then it's also women who follow up to make sure everything went as planned. I enjoyed looking into studies of this, but I found that when men were asked if they believe the housework is equally shared, their answers were yes, and that they were satisfied. And yet when the female partners were asked the same questions, they disagreed. Partners may think that they're being supportive by saying, just let me know how I can help you, or tell me what to do. But I want to pause on that because while it's a helpful gesture, the onus of project management still falls back on the other partner who has to keep the brain space dedicated to keeping track of everything. So think of situations where your partner may have asked, just tell me what to do. Sometimes, while in our tired brain mode, it's easier for us to say, I'll just handle it. I also have some questions here to pose that would fall under cognitive labor thoughts. So let's say, for example, when there's a leaky faucet, who is the person that researches the plumber, calls him and sets up the appointment? Who notices that your child has outgrown her clothes or her favorite pair of shoes? Who responds to the birthday invites, make sure that it's on the calendar, follows through with getting the gift for the child, and that the diaper bag, right, for the baby is packed appropriately for the day. And for anything that could go wrong, we have it in the bag. So cognitive labor, to sum it up, it requires the mental energy to plan effectively for multiple people in different situations, different occasions, and then execute on that plan. So as I mentioned, invisible labor overall is the combination of the emotional labor and the cognitive labor that come together for working moms as they are managing the house, managing the children, the schedules, and everything that goes on. And so I right now would invite, for the next slide, I'd like to invite the audience to participate with this. I'm going to be giving a scenario, and for comedic relief intended, I'll have to say trigger warning. But if we can listen to the scenario, I have some questions to ask. If you can put your answers in the chat, Director Chang will help facilitate those answers for us. So here's the scenario. It's Friday night. You just got home from work. Your children or your child also just got home off the bus from school. Friday is definitely an easy night with the food. We're ordering pizza and wings. We already checked the schedule for the weekend. There's not too much going on. It's relatively an easy, relaxing weekend. You go to your child's backpack to clean it out, the lunchbox and everything else, and you pull out a piece of paper, and this is what you see. Spirit Week starts next Monday. So now, with that said, if you could put in the chat, what is the first thought or feeling that came to your mind?
While we wait for some chat responses, mine was why?
Exactly.
Bobby says, oh no. Amanda says, no. Rick said, adoption. Chandra says, why didn't they tell me this before?
Yep.
Chris says, of course.
Yep.
Mila says, eye roll and another thing to handle.
Hmm.
Caroline says, my child didn't give it to me until the morning of, though.
Oh no.
Anita says, here we go again. LOL.
Okay. So question number 2, now that your cognitive and emotional labor wheels are going, the invisible labor begins to take place. So what are some questions now that you may start asking yourself?
Director Meck, can we go to the previous that has the 3 forms?
Yeah.
Maybe just so people. So which one are we talking about?
Well, both are going at the same time. Your emotional labor with respect to keeping that smile on your face, despite how you're feeling, and the cognitive labor, the thought process into project management, and how are we going to execute this, right?
Perfect. Now, if you
So,
want to go back to the other, we have some responses here. We see Caroline says, do we even own a sports jersey? That was me last sports week, I have to say. I
yep.
was at Target at 7:30 after work and karate class. Chandra says, where is that princess shirt? Rick says, when does Goodwill open on Saturday?
Boom.
Chris Young says, I shouldn't have used all my glitter last night. And Megan shared, it's currently Spirit Week for her. Me too, Megan. And we forgot to participate on Monday.
And there's Grace.
Tavera
And
says,
maybe,
same, it's Spirit Week for her. Brittany, also, it's Spirit Week. Anita said, we just threw away that Browns jersey from last year.
dang. And how about what are the school colors again? Crazy socks, that might be an everyday thing, you know?
Right, right. Amanda said, Wacky Wednesday today at my kid's school. Same. And we were not doing that because we have things to do after school, and I'm not having you walk around looking like that.
Right. I love it. All the thoughts that are taking place. So now on to the next question. Are there any other responses since I can't see?
Whiz Kid Wednesday is today for Tamara. I've not even heard of that.
What is Whiz Kid Wednesday?
I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if the teachers are doing this for their own humor for what it does to us. Cameron's
Yeah.
school had Snowman Day last time, and I don't even know what that means.
Okay, well, we'll move on. So now that we have the cognitive and emotional labor wheels again going, we've thought about all the things that we need to think about. It's now time for action. So what are some action steps that derive from your thoughts that you would need to do over the weekend?
Chandra says laundry.
Yep.
For me, most likely shopping.
Yep.
Brittany said put it on the family calendar. Mila
Smart.
says plan out what to buy, borrow, and when. Ijanea says also shopping. Chandra says check my bank account. Carrie said shopping to grab what's needed.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the reality is the relaxing Friday pizza night with wings overall weekend ended up changing because of one simple piece of paper that you pulled out from your child's backpack, right?
Yeah.
I have 2 more questions with this. So now the execution phase, it's the morning of each of these days. Let's talk about what are some thoughts that may come into play as you are getting your little one ready.
I'll start well, let me go to the last 2 comments for the previous. Carolyn says, plan it, then have my child say, I don't want to do it that way. That's so true. I live that life.
So true.
Mila says, get my daughter's buy-in thoughts, have her try on the clothes as she's between sizes right now.
Yeah.
To answer your next question, I know for me, it's mentally checking myself that I am making it fun for him, even though I'm incredibly irritated that this is one more thing that morning. that I have to
Yeah,
make sure I'm executing right for him to then have an enjoyable time at school.
that right there I can relate to so much. Are there, and this question's kind of twofold too, please share, would there be any feelings of guilt throughout this process?
Chandra actually spoke to that. She said, having to tell her, I'm sorry, you're just not going to do Disney Day. I can't find your princess shirt.
Yeah.
Caroline
Yeah.
says, is this going to be a dress code? Like, where do they wear the Disney stuff with the dress code and pants? Oh, I didn't even think about that. If it's a school with a uniform or a dress code requirement, that's a great
Right.
point.
Which would lead back to additional questions and probably emails to the teacher for clarification.
Right. Yes. Carrie said, getting him ready the day of, I'd be excited to take the pics that he doesn't want to take.
Any other comments on that one?
My Mila says, um, yes, comparing to the other kids, my kid's hair doesn't line up with the other parents or guardians. That's a good point too.
Yeah. And with question number 4, talking about the guilt, I really wanted to speak to the humanity of this, right? Um, we're dealing with our child or children's emotions. Maybe there's something they were really excited about to do, and we, for whatever reason, couldn't come forward with what was needed that day based off other scheduling. And I think that is also a reality as we're working through the emotional labor management process of ensuring that Spirit Week is a success. And so my last question to this was, knowing that we are operating in this unseen realm, we talked about the shock factor of the reminder. We talked about the thoughts that happen in our head. We talked about the different actions that we would be taking over the weekend. And we also talked about how each day could look different as we're getting our child ready for Spirit Week. And so while in this world, there is no tangible reward, there's no certificate that we'll receive for making this happen. But I want to ask yourself, what is the reward, so to speak, in that after all of this has been executed effectively?
And Chandra says, the smile.
The smile. Yep.
Oh, Greg said, the thanks, Daddy. I love you.
Oh, love it.
Rick said, the extra slice of pizza with the wine. Mila says,
Exactly.
seeing them happy and proud. Caroline says, the feeling that my child can count on me. I love that. I never thought of it that way, but that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Vanessa said the conversation after school about how their day went. Yep.
Yes.
Megan says similar, hearing all about her day and how much fun she had. I know that's it for me. Tuesday was Spirit Day. I forgot. He remembered. We had to do a full wardrobe change 2 minutes before walking out the door. But he was so excited when he came home on Tuesday that he got to wear his hat and the hat that he had chosen and all of that. And so the aggravation I had in the morning was worth it.
Yes, absolutely. And we're doing it with that emotional labor at mind, like, this is exciting, right? Let's do this. While in our head, it's like, you need to hurry up because I got to leave for work.
Absolutely.
So, are there any other comments before I move on?
I'm not seeing any.
Okay. So I appreciate everybody's participation here. And I love that this exercise helped us, in this collective walk through how one paper in our child's backpack can completely change how we navigate the weekend. While I kept this somewhat simplified, I'd like for all of us to take into consideration all of the other aspects that the working mom would have managed in addition throughout this process. What if I had said in here that, oh, by the way, there's an early dismissal on one of these days? It's also the same week that you have a work event in the evening. Your child may play sports or a musical instrument or have dance class. And it was also time for the 6-month doctor's appointment. And it just so much happened to be during Spirit Week. And so while we had fun working through this exercise, I hope for each of you with this reality is that to know that you are winning, you are thriving, You are owning your space in this world as a professional and as a loving mother, and you are doing it well. And we talked about those rewards that are not tangible, the smiles on our children's faces, the story that they told about how great Disney Day was, so on and so forth. And that's exactly what makes it worth it. So thank you for participating in this portion of the presentation. I wanted to end this part of the presentation with a quote that I found so valuable by Alison Daminger, a sociologist. It says, when you are an expert on household labor, a garbage can is never a garbage can. And I find I find that to be so true because of all the things that come with it. When is garbage day? Are we recycling? How many trash bags do we have left? It's time to clean out and wipe out the garbage can. My child is old enough to start taking it out. These are all the thoughts and things that go behind the garbage can. So at this time, I wanted to take a moment to honor PHRC's working moms. I think it's one thing that we get to see each other in the workspace, but we should also, be aware and honor that while we are working so hard in this fight for justice together, we are also wonderful mothers. And so I apologize that I was not able to have all of PHRC's moms in this presentation, but I'd love for us to go through who I do have. And I will say, I asked each mom to ask their children 3 questions. And those questions are, what does mom do for work? How do you know mom loves you? And what do you love most about your mom? So first up, we have Regional Director Heather Roth. This is her daughter, Alexis, 15 years old. She says that her mom for work empowers people through getting them justice. How do you know mom loves you? She shows me through acts of kindness. And what do you love most about your mom? Everything. I just can't pick. Here's Director Damon and her daughter. And when she was asked, what does mom do for work? Not really, but I know she makes sure everyone is okay. And sometimes she has to discipline people and talk to a lot of people and get people jobs. I know my mom loves me because she always tells me this all the time. And what I love most is that my mom is an open book. She talks to me about anything, and she lets me know I can come talk to her about anything all the time. We make food together. My favorite is pound cake and baked mac and cheese, and we spend time together. Here is Vanessa Edwards and her daughter Irie, age 3. What does mom do for work? She works with people to help them. How do you know mommy loves you? This question was asked twice just to make sure she understood. And Irie's answer was, with your heart, and heart starts with the letter H. And I found that to be such a cute answer because the background is she is working with Irie on spelling ABCs. And so Irie made it a point to say, heart starts with the letter H. What do you love most about your mom? That I get the things I like. So well done, Renessa. Your daughter knows she is well loved. Okay, this is Carrie Simmons. Her 2 children, Amar, 11 years old, and Amir, 21 years old. So what does mom do for work? Her younger son states she works at PHRC, where she helps people get help to be treated fairly for their family. I'm not always sure what exactly it is she is doing, but she pays bills there and is always in a meeting. Her older son states, my mom works really hard at the PA Human Relations Commission for Mr. Lassiter, who I see as a modern day version of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. She helps with their financial needs, hiring, contracts, and procurements to support and educate the citizens of Pennsylvania. I'm not always clear on the details, but I know she's deeply dedicated to her job and takes care of a lot of important responsibilities there. I've always admired how hard my mom works in life. She is the only person I know who truly loves what she does in her career. When asked, how do you know mommy loves you? Her youngest states, I know my mom loves me because she always makes sure I'm okay, gives me hugs, and tells me she loves me. She does so many things for me, like making sure I have what I need, cooking, traveling, and helping me with stuff, and always being there when I need her. Her eldest son states, I know my mom loves me because she is always there for me, no matter what the circumstance may be. She gave me life, raised me, checks in, supports me through tough times, and makes sure I'm doing well in life. She's not just my mom, she's my protector and my best friend. Words can't fully describe what she means to me. You have to experience it to truly understand. I am who I am today because of her, and if I was to go missing, I know my mom would find me. And then, when asked, what do you love most about your mom? Her youngest states, she's funny, she can cook, and loves football. She's nice, and she's my best friend. She makes me laugh when I'm upset, and she's always there. Plus, she's really smart and teaches me a lot of things that my school does not. Her eldest states, what I love most about my mom is how selfless she is. She's always looking out for others and puts so much effort into making sure everyone around her is okay. She's incredibly understanding and always knows the right advice to give, even when I don't think I need it. I really admire her strength and the way she handles everything in life, truly everything. Her cooking, her love for sports and dance, that's my Umi, and I love her. Up next, we have Outreach Coordinator Brittany Mellinger. Pictured here is her daughter, Alara, who is 5 years old, and her son, Nathaniel, who is 1. And the responses are from her daughter. What does mom do for work? I think you help people to get homes. How do you know mom loves you? You read stories to me and do puzzles with me. What do you love most about your mom? I love that you like to do puzzles with me. Sweet picture. Next, we have Chief of Staff, Zulay Rojas. These are pictures of her firstborn daughter, Ye, her eldest son, Will, and her baby boy, Zion. And the answers are from her daughter and her eldest son. So what does mom do for work? My mom is the bridge between the PHRC staff and the executive director. How do you know mom loves you? Her daughter states, because she tells me every day. And Will states, I know you love me because you always let me know every day that you do. What do you love most about your mom? Her daughter states how supportive she is and her resilience. Life hasn't been easy for her, yet she is so strong. And Will states, one thing I love most about you is your strength, whether it be mentally or physically. Through all the ups and downs you've been through, you've always managed to push through whatever it is. And if I can just say, Chief of Staff, your daughter is your twin.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, Director of Education, Desiree Chang. This is her son, Cameron. He is 6 years old. What does mom do for work? Cam says lots of things on the computer, and she works far away sometimes. How do you know mom loves you? Because she's my best friend. What do you love most about your mom? I love that you are beautiful. You are nice to me. You help me with my homework and do fun things with me. What beach is he at?
That was in Hawaii last year.
Oh, awesome. Okay, hearing examiner Shahadi Cope. This is her daughter Luna, age 7. What does mommy do for work? She's a lawyer. How do you know she loves you? She hugs me, she kisses me, she smiles at me, and she says, I love you to me. What do you love most about your mom? She cares about me, and I think she's cute. And, and for context, this picture was chosen because Luna drew that picture of herself with her beautiful curly hair and her beautiful transitioning smile. And she displays it with confidence because she knows, and Mama Cope reminds her often that she is perfect just the way she is. All right, Director Eister. These are her and her 4 beautiful daughters. From left to right, we have Anna, age 14, Elise, 20, Director Eister in the middle, Leah, age 26, and Abby, age 19. And I have 3 out of her 4 daughters' responses. So Abby, age 19, the one on the far right, states, "My mom makes everyone feel seen and heard, no matter who they are. She is all about equality and morals and brings light to the conversations that are sometimes too uncomfortable to bring up. I know she loves me because of how much she has done for me. She wants what's best for me. If I had a bad day, she helps me to try to turn it around." Elise, second in from the left. "My mom orchestrates safe and fair housing for all residents across PA. I know she loves me because she has made generational sacrifices for my sisters and I. She has set us up to have a better future and an opportunity bigger than what she was given. I love my mom's empathy. She can always see the why and follows this with understanding and forgiveness." And then Leah, second in from the right, she writes, "My mom works to make sure everyone is treated fairly when it comes to housing. She has always supported me in everything I do and continues to be there for me no matter what. It's hard to choose what I love most, but if I had to pick, it would be the kindness and grace she shows to everyone. It's something I truly admire and hope to embody myself." And then the last one, these are my children. My son Asan is 11 years old, and my daughter Jayla is 1. She'll be 2 next week. And just a little bit about her name. I named her in honor and memory of my father, Daniel J. And later I found out that Jayla means divine healing and God will protect. And so I asked my son these questions. And when I said, "What does mom do for work?" he replies, "You help children, don't you?" "How do you know mommy loves you?" "You understand that I am an athlete." "What do you love most about your mom?" "That you feed me good food." And so those are the mothers that I was able to honor in today's presentation. I wanted to show this next slide here. It just says, "Beyond the scene, behind the scenes, we see you, Mom." And I think that it's so important to shine light on a relatively new conversation. As I mentioned, it wasn't until 2018 that emotional and cognitive labor started to be applicable in definition for families and partnerships. And it's time that we continue to highlight this conversation and this important topic because there's so much that goes on in the unseen world. And for us moms, um, we can be sitting at our office doing the work, but the reality is we're thinking about the doctor's appointment our child might have, the music lesson that needs to take place, transportation on early dismissal days, allergy shots when they need to happen, and then also managing the emotional labor of our children. And so I just want to commend each of you that you are amazing, wonderful mothers, you're phenomenal professionals, and that we see you. And with that, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Mack. So we do have some time, and I want to invite anyone, if you have any commentary, you can put it in the chat, or you can come off of chat, raise the hand. I am keeping an eye on that if you want to comment at all. While we wait for anything to come in, I jotted down a couple things that resonated with me. The fact that you had included about women who are equally employed as their male counterparts still bear a heavier load as relates to the home. And I think and again, speaking, as you had mentioned, heterosexual female, working mother, I think that is so consistent. I mean, when I speak with, my mom friends, it's like as much as the partner may want to be helpful, and as present, it's never equal to everything that we are juggling, even with their best effort. So I appreciated knowing that that's a fact that you were able to identify. The chat is going crazy with just everyone thanking you for such a thoughtful presentation. Also, as you were reading, showing the photos, I think I love that you included, a dedication to all of us. Well, I know it's not every working mom at the PHRC, as you had mentioned, but just a little glimpse with some of us and invited, us to show a different part of who we are. I know, we're very professional here. We have a heavy commitment to the work. And so being able to see us in a different capacity and probably one of the softest roles that we have, I think was beautiful. And I appreciate you, being so thoughtful in doing that.
Yeah, thank
Does
you.
anyone have any comments, questions, anything that you want to add?
And if I can, like, because I wasn't sure how, on time here, one thing that I did not touch on was how do we make the invisible labor visible? How do we change the narrative of inequity in the household? And I think that there's many moving parts that can go into that, right? I think it starts off with the society and cultural norms and the gendered assumptions, breaking that from a young age, and I, without being an expert, know that I'm not only am I giving my daughter baby dolls to play with, she's also getting cars, a toolbox set, all the things. And with my son, I'm focusing on you need to know how to do laundry, how to clean, the time that goes into that. And I think that bringing this to light, that making the invisible visible is what it's going to require. As I mentioned, it's a relatively new definition now since 2018. So I have been listening to a lot of podcast or TED Talks on this. There's a lot of TikTok content out there. There's a lady that's titled, she is a page turner, but she spells page Paige, and she speaks specifically on how we can make the invisible labor visible. And it starts with that dialogue in your partnership. What are the expectations? How does that align with gender assumptions? And what does that look like? Because again, it goes back to, while the partner can be supportive and saying, just tell me what to do, there's so much more. And I'll use my fiance as an example with Jayla's second birthday coming up and her birthday party. I let him know, like, hey, I need you to, cook the hot dogs and hamburgers on the grill. So the other night, I just asked him a general question, and he's a wonderful man. But I said, are you thinking about anything else for Jayla's party? And he said, the grill. And I'm like, we have the birthday outfits, the cupcakes, the cake, the tablecloths, all the things, but it's just an example of how do we bring the invisible to the visible.
I love that you added that. I'm so glad that we had time for that, and I love that you added that because I think that that is something that we need to be talking about. We know what the challenge is, right? Most of us know that, or a lot of us know that, and even those that aren't parents or guardians, you come from a set of parents and or guardians, and so you understand, maybe adjacently, but you still understand, and you saw what your parents and our guardians did. So I think having those candid conversations about how do we break down those societal gender expectations and bring us out from those antiquated views, because we're not there anymore, right?
Right.
Most homes are, if they are two parent, then they are two parent working homes. Some are single parent homes, and some are grandparents, and there's just, what is the traditional household anymore? I don't know that there is such a definition. We have working fathers and staying home fathers now, and just, there's just a variety of what home looks like, what parent looks like. So I love that idea about making the invisible visible. The chat kept going. Brittany just affirmed the person that you had mentioned, saying she's phenomenal, Paige, the page turner.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie shared on here episode 68, A Day in Her Life with Paige Connell, working mom of four and influencer, Apple Podcast. Brittany asked, do you have any recommendations on workplace policies that can make it more doable for working moms and parents in general to balance this heavy load? That's an amazing question, Brittany. I know for me, and if you have any, Director Chang, or I'm Director Chang, Director Mack, I was going to say one thing that offered a reprieve for me was the telework and the hybrid schedule. It has been such a blessing in being able to juggle both responsibilities. So, you know, for me, I know that that's been one movement, and not because of the
Mm-hmm.
invisible labor, because of an entirely different reason, but the fact that it has stuck because there was so much outpouring of the change and the reprieve that it brought to so many people. So that's
Yes,
one.
and I would second that. That telework is everything, and I find myself being able to clock in my work sooner. Because you know, for me, just in my situation, I have to get my son on the bus, then I have to get my daughter over to daycare, then I need to get myself ready, then I need to get to work. So I've managed multiple people with different locations and drop-offs. Everybody has different items in their bags, including myself. I find that I probably put myself at the bottom of the total pool when I get here and realize, dang, I don't have coffee, or dang, I forgot my water bottles. But having that telework capability allows me to ace out the door. Jayla's a quick drop off, and then I'm back and I'm working. It's a great question, OC Mellinger, and I think that one thing that needs to continue happening is, now that the spotlight has been drawn to invisible labor with respect to families and relationships, like I said, only since 2018, the narrative, the dialogue needs to continue. Those topics need to be brought up at home, or I'm sorry, in the workplace. And those that are responsible for policy development, like, are we considering those things? And that's why I say kudos to all of you in here who are functioning as a professional and as a parent, because our mind is in multiple places, right? And we are still doing wonderful work at the PHRC. It's clear through these answers that I've read today. Your children see you, your children love you. I said specifically that one part, is anybody feeling any guilt? Because I know I did. If I ran out of time and wasn't able to find pajamas, a miss going to practice, you just can't participate the next day, son. You mean well. And even still, even in our shortcomings, we are still thriving. We are still winning. Our children know that they are loved. And I think that that's so important.
I love that, Director Mack. This has been just such a needed topic, and such a shift from what we typically do as it relates to our lunch and learns. They're usually very intellectual and very fact-based, and social justice focused and based, and I think it's important to take a step back sometimes and just talk about our varying responsibilities in humanity and as people.
Yes.
So I love that you picked this topic. I love that it starts off the Women's History Month, and the theme. It was really a discussion between you and I talking about Women's History Month that made the theme become empowerment for this year. And so I thank you for that, and to the other two speakers that will be featured this month, staying consistent with that theme so that we can offer just empowerment and enlightenment and encouragement throughout the whole month. So I am excited that you started this off, and that everyone has been so present and engaged and feels seen. That's evident throughout the chat. So just as a reminder, we do have, as I already mentioned, weekly features in honor of Women's History Month. And so our next featured speaker is hearing examiner Tamara Shahadi Cope, who will present another powerful topic, navigating global women's rights issues, migration, and barriers to services in the United States. If you don't already and you're a member of PHRC, please follow our social media pages. If you do, please share the social media plugs and handles with your spheres of influence, so that everyone can stay abreast of the various events and things that we're doing at the PHRC. We are all in so many different spaces, And so the best way to stay up to date on everything that's happening at PHRC is to follow the socials. Let me just see. I think there's a little bit more dialogue going, so I don't want to miss anything. A few comments on just thanking you for the touching presentation. Anthony says, I've always dealt with guilt as a parent, but I'm getting better at dealing with it. Oh gosh, yeah. Parent guilt is a monster in and of itself.
And if I can, the guilt is a testament to how much you love your child. And so while it may start off feeling guilty or feeling not adequate enough, please know that that's just a sign of how wonderful of a parent you are and how deeply you care. And so I would just ask you to shape that lens a little bit differently, let go of the guilt when it comes and goes, and keep on grinding.
Thank you. Carrie shared all of the handles in the chat. Thank you so much for doing that, Carrie. And just as my own disclaimer, I was very informal in a first name basis this afternoon because I feel like you let us see us outside of just the professional. And so I thank everyone for allowing me to indulge a little bit and use first names this afternoon. Carolyn says, keep on grinding. I love that. I'll leave you with the last note that I had jotted down. And you had mentioned the brain space needed to project manage. And I think that I never heard, like, I've heard the expression brain space, but hearing it in this context was so fitting because it really is sometimes more laborious from the mental responsibility of things than the physical. So not saying everything that you need to say and why and how and connecting the dots. Sometimes it's just easier to just execute mindlessly than having to take on the mental load. So I love that you included that as well.
Thank you. Well, special thank you to everyone for joining in this afternoon. Women Empowerment Month has officially kicked off, and I can't wait to see the rest of this month's presentations.